Okay, Shalom Akim, Kahala Imla Yahaba Shimi Al Shaba Hashim Hakodash. Once more, double honors to the great and apostles and the elder bishops. Yaratazar that you find this video edifying and exhorting. But yeah, as you can see from the video, Yaratazar just going to get straight into it. I saw this on a recommended and I said, okay, let me watch this because I remember, certain brothers uploaded a video based on this Zangbeto spirit, man. This is really a demon, just to make it clear, of certain ones. I'm gonna play the video, Yaratazar, but prior to that, just wanted to clarify what this individual here called Asher Speed, he's a streamer, one of those I say internet personalities, but one of those internet celebrities, you could say, because he recently went on a world tour, not world tour, but rather African tour, visiting multiple countries, apparently for 28 days, and I think he ended yesterday or today, something like that. I believe it was yesterday that he ended it. But the point is, this was in I forgot what country this thing was in, but point is, he was interacting with the Hamites, and of course he's seen some things, man. Your brothers have probably seen it on their recommended as well, man, because this shit was everywhere. But before I get into the video, I'm gonna get into what this what it means, what this Zangbeto spirit means. So let me get into that right now. Alright, so from searching it up, what is the Zangbeto spirit? It says Zangbeto is a traditional spirit guardian of the night among Ogu or Egun, people of Benin, Togo, and Nigeria, serving as a spiritual and cultural force for community protection and law enforcement. So, of course, in other words, the Hamites over there in these three countries predominantly, Benin, Togo, and Nigeria. Of course, it's really them Hamites. Of course, Jake among them as well, partaking in this bullshit, whether it be ignorance or in willingness. They're partaking in this worshipping of demons, really, because as it says here, Zangbeto is a traditional spirit guardian of the night. Now it says meaning and origin. It says Zangbeto comes from the Gun language, meaning men of night or night watchmen, derived from Zan, night, and Beto, which means person or people. So it says spiritual roles. Zangbeto are believed to be supernatural entities, often spirits of ancestors or primordial forces. You see, so this is now getting into the necromancy region as well. It says, which I'm gonna bring out what the scriptures say about that. It says, said to inhabit the earth long before humans, they act as spiritual enforcers, protecting villages from evil spirits, witches, thieves, and social evils, which they're evil spirits in themselves anyways, man. Because really, again, these so-called spirits aren't right-hand spirits, but they're left-hand side spirits, to ensure these Hamites are in their delusion. Let them have their hard-headedness in their idols. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it, unless I see something else here. Alright, let's see this. So it says beliefs and powers. During performances, Zangbeto are said to perform miracles, swallowing glass, vanishing objects, or appearing spontaneously, believed to be manifestations of spiritual power. On the left-hand side, by the way, which is via demons. Their spinning movements symbolize cleansing of evil of their village. I would beg to differ and say, well, I wouldn't beg to differ, but I would say it's not really a cleansing of evil, but more of an influence of evil. Keep the people, the Hamites, them lot, or whatever Jake that's in that deception. Because remember, there's Jake amongst Nigeria. There's a lot of Jake amongst Nigeria. So, of course, I wouldn't be surprised with them worshipping this Zangbeto as well, partaking in what the Hamites have influenced them to do. So these are all different forms of idols. It says Benin, Togo, and Nigeria. And Nigeria's got a lot of Levites there as well. Remember scriptures talk about. Let me get that right here. Just hold on. Quickly. Genesis 49 and verse 5. It says Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitation. Of course, Haitians are Levites, but also Levites. There's a lot of Levites in Nigeria as well. Sometimes you could easily tell from their mannerisms too, man. They're quite reserved. But anyway, so Simeon and Levi are brethren and also very intelligent too. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty. See, that's the key phrase there. Are in their habitation. Of course, in the NLT it says instruments of violence. On the right side there, verse 5, Genesis 49 and 5. But of course, these instruments of violence doesn't have to be physical weapons. They could be spiritual tools which are used to try and affect people. Pretty much, as they say, voodoo. So, do some research and you're going to see some things. So Genesis 49 and 6, it says, "Oh, my soul, come not thou into their secret." And the reason why I'm reading this is because, it mentioned Nigeria there as well, which of course there are a lot of Levites there too. Southern tribe, but a lot of Levites there, believe it or not. I used to think that was only Judah, like just mainly Judah there and a few Benjamin. But then, yeah, surprisingly enough, there are a lot of Levites there. So Genesis 49 and 6, "O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto the assembly, mine honor. Be not thou united, for their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall." That says, "Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, scatter them in Israel." And of course, Levi, they got Yahweh as their inheritance, man. So again, that was a responsibility there. But nevertheless, the Levites here in the world, most of them, I say most of them, but certain of them are tapped in on the left-hand side demons. They actually tapped into this Zangbeto spirit. So anyways, before I get some presets, this is just for context. That's why I was reading it, and I got that there because it mentioned Nigeria, Benin, Togo, and Nigeria. Which, you got Jake scattered in all of them there. Getting influenced by the culture of the Hamas. But let's get back to the Aisha Speed video. Alright, so as it's named, Aisha Speed sees what's inside the Zangbeto spirit. Let's play it.
How is he moving? Wait, how they moving? Are these robots?
But there's no one in it. There's spirits.
They're spirits? What the hell? Oh my gosh! What the? Yo! How is it moving like that? Oh no, buddies! What is this one doing? Oh, how is these moving? He's the bro, he's spraying on all of them. He's controlling it.
This is what the Hamites are doing, man. So don't be surprised. Back in the day, we're going to get into it. Just a brief few verses. When giants and jamborees, especially that moment where Moses asked Aaron, told Aaron to cast his his stick to the ground, his rod to the ground, so that it would turn into a serpent, which is what the Most High said he would do, to be the beginning of the miracles that the Most High would do, to tell Pharaoh, all right, let my people go. But again, the point what I was trying to say is, don't be surprised because the former Egyptians, within the scriptures, the one that enslaved Israel, from the book of Exodus. Don't be surprised if they had these practices back in those days, in order to conjure up spirits or to do to perform their left-hand side miracles, man. Because this is just them communing with demons, to perform some tricks right here, man. That's really it. Certain videos as well, you got them floating in the air too. People be thinking, how in the world is that possible? It's possible because Yahweh Shemir Shah created all the spirits. Really, if you want to get into things, these are spirits of which point is they're just demons that these Hamas be tapped into. They're tapped in, they're linked, they're in sync with those on the spirits on the left hand side.
That is spirits in there. Bro, it's a spirit in there. This one's dancing. Chat, nobody's in here. It's a spirit in here.
It's through the I was gonna say it's through the spirit as well, but it is through the spirit though. But the question is, what spirit is it through? Right hand spirit, or is it left hand side spirit? This one here is through the left hand side spirit. You've already established it by doing some searching up, of what the Zangbeto spirit is. Even this, I remember Captain called him Chaos Demon as well, man. When he went to Egypt too. But he is a Chaos Demon. I talk about this streamer here called Speed. This Chaos Demon, because that shows you there's levels to demons as well. Even he being a demon himself, he's scared of this demon here. Which of course, with a carnal man, there's a certain level of spiritual reasoning, if any, that he has. And that's Jake as well. And really, Jake is a spiritual people as well, so they're more sensitive. And this ain't the first time that he was, dealing with left-hand side spirits, man. There was one last year. I don't know how long it was, but it was last year. I believe it was last year where, he was communing with a witch. That's the thing. And then, some kind of, it's like the Most High tapped the spirit. However that was, because remember, Jake is still spiritual. They have that righteous compass. It's just most of them choose to ignore it. People of the world, Jake in the world. So it's like it got tapped in the spirit. However that would have worked. Well, again, just to keep things simple, the Most High pretty much tapped him, and then he had to get out of the witch's coven, man. The witch was saying, you gotta take off your slippers, and then he was like, nah. He was seeing the chat, this this text on the right here. Hold on.
Nope.
This text on the right here. He was seeing the chat, and then they were saying he needs to get out of there. That was really, the Most High, using him as an example that, yeah, man, these witches are real, and of course they tap into demons. So it's not the first time that he's done it, man. He left and he forgot his darn shoes or slippers, man. So don't be surprised if shit starts to happen to him, because he ain't got Yahweh Shem Yahshua, so he's really defenseless here. He's defenseless. All right, before I continue, but you guys are seeing all of that, man. The Hamas do their music and dancing and all that, all those chants, to conjure up spirits. And as I said, there's certain videos where, of course, they didn't show it here, but there's certain videos where they actually float. They float. That's the thing. And it's true though. No one is actually in them. You know, of course, skeptics. You know, in the West, you know, Esau would say, "Oh, there's got to be a person in here." No, it's unbelievable. You know, it's British accent there, whatever that is. But the point is, yeah, there actually are demons with being covered by these, whatever these things are, materials, and then they're doing a little dance, man. You know, and Hamites are worshipping them. You know, however they do that. Anyways, let me get some precepts and then I'll get back to this. Right, this is Leviticus 19 of verse 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord Yahweh, your power. It says, do not defile, in the NLT, do not defile yourselves by turning to mediums or to those who consult the spirits of the dead. I am the Lord Yahweh, your power. You know, when people was talk about visiting the ancestors, channeling the flipping ancestors, you know, those are familiar spirits. That goes into necromancy. You know, another very good example was Saul. King Saul in 1 Samuel. He pretty much banished the spirits. Well, he banished the ones who were consulting the spirits, aka witches and wizards. And he actually needed to consult one in order to summon Samuel, which that was quite a mistake he did there. So 1 Samuel 20, I'm gonna just read the key verses here. Let's see. Alright, let me read this. 1 Samuel 28 and 3. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits, you see, consulting with the dead, and the wizards out of the land. Let's read this in the NLT, New Living Translation on the right. 1 Samuel 28 and 3. Meanwhile Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him. He was buried in Ramah, his hometown, and Saul had banned from the land of Israel all mediums and those who consult the spirits of the dead. So anyone tampering in necromancy, you'll be like, nah, you lot gotta get out of it. Not knowing later on he would need to consult one as well. Alright, so let me read from verse 8. Let me read from verse 7. This was when Saul needed to communicate with Samuel. He needed some advice, man. But really, this was just him experiencing his end. 1 Samuel 28 and 7. Then said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that hath a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servants said to him, behold, there is a woman that hath a familiar spirit at Endor. So of course Saul was seeking one now. Verse 8. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, other clothing, and he went, and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. This was even the yeah, Salakia, sometimes you got a little cough in it. But even the diviner, witch, you know, whatever you want to call her, the consulter, familiar spirit, she would have, I could keep reading as well, but just hold on. Let me read the NLT as well. She was surprised, man, because this was a heavy spirit she had to bring up, man. And Samuel was not really happy when Saul did this. Samuel in the spirit, quite literally. So 1 Samuel 20 and 8. So Saul disguised himself by wearing an ordinary clothing instead of his royal robes. Then he went to the woman's home at night, accompanied by 2 of his men. I have to talk to a man who has died, he said. Will you call up his spirit for me? So NLT makes it plain. All right, back to the KJV on the left. Now it says, and the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done. So this was when she didn't know that Saul was the one speaking. So what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare, a trap for my life to cause me to die. So of course she had to be cautious. And Saul swore to her by the Lord Yahweh, saying, As the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. So of course, again, that's just a key point that those who conjured up familiar spirits, existed back in the day. Witches, wizards, they existed back in the day, back in this time, the same way they still exist in this day too. It's just more. I would even say it's that covert. It's really more. It depends, but it is out there, of course. People are more. One could even say desensitized to it. Sometimes they show it in the movies and video games. So that's how they desensitize people to witchcraft and whatnot. Let's see. All right, let me see if I can. Let me get to the video here. All right, let's rewind. So yeah, these are just demons, or which Hamites are bringing up, whether it be Hamites or just jakes that are tapped into it.
Bro, it's a spirit in there.
Hold on. I saw something on the chat as well. You got the chat even warning him, saying it's demons.
This was dancing.
Even they know. Hold on. Let me see if I find
Bro.
Right there. It says, you can see this guy says it's demons, man. You got the Muslims saying that whatever bullshit they be saying, stuff for, whatever bullshit. So, some trying to say the idol. This comment here really summarizes it all. Even the guys who are commenting on the stream know what's up, man. This is demonic shit. And it's true, it is. It is.
It's a spirit in there. This was dancing. Chat, nobody's in here. It's a spirit in here.
As I said before, the chaos demon himself is scared of that demon, man. That shows you there's levels. There's levels, man. Read Job 1 or Job 2. When of course Satan was communicating with the Most High, and then the Most High said, what have you been doing? That meeting of the heavens, man. There's levels to demons. That's the point. There's levels to. Of course, there's multiple accounts as well. There's multiple accounts. But the point is, there's levels, man. That's the thing. But again, it doesn't mean that we gotta fear these demons, man. That's the thing. Of course, really, as Yahushua said. Oh no, what did he say? Spirits, subjects. So in that time, hold on. All right, I'll read this. This one's the one. This is Luke 10:20. Notwithstanding in this, rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. So of course, that's twofold right there. One, I should read the main reason why I'm reading this precept. It says that the spirits are subject unto you, which means, left hand side spirits, you got power over them, man. Power over scorpions, as the scriptures say. He literally says it right here. That's the spirit. Harachah Kodash. Just to clarify there. Now, Luke 10, and which Harachah Kodash just means the Holy Spirit. The right hand side spirit, which goes under the authority of Yahweh Shim Yahushua. If it ain't under Yahweh Shim Yahushua, it's the left hand side. That's really keeping it simple. So Luke 10 and verse 19, it says that, behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy. Nothing shall be by any means hurt you. You see? Now let's look on the right side. This is a NLT. Look, I have given you authority. This is Yahushua speaking here. It says, look, I have given you all. I have given you. He's talking to us, us men, us servants of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Yaharatazah, we are the elect men, which means Yahweh willing, or Yahweh's will. Now it says, look, I have given you authority over all the power of the enemy, and you can walk among snakes and scorpions and crush them. Nothing will injure you. You see, and that ain't talking about literal snakes and scorpions as well, man. This is talking about read our enemies and those who are tapped in on the left hand side. You know, Esau and whatever, demons, witches, and wizards that try to send spiritual attacks. You know, nothing ain't gonna affect us. That's the thing, because we have been given the power and authority over them. Hence, let's read verse 20. Luke 10 and verse 20 in the KJV. So on the left side here, it says, notwithstanding in this rejoice, not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven, which of course is the key part here. Our names are written in heaven. So it's even saying that, it's what's greater is really our names written in heaven, man. But of course, you can't forget the fact that the House has given us spiritual authority over these kind of spirits. So really, we ain't got nothing to fear in terms of these demons, man. So that's why, when it comes to how can I say this? When it comes to, sometimes, you got the sleep paralysis demons. Sometimes you may wake up, you almost be as though you're flipping wrestling a demon all night or certain portions of the night. All you gotta do is just pray, say Thadiyal Shah, and then you speak with authority, tell them go, and then through the spirit of Yahweh Shimi Shah, they go. That's the authority that we have over them. That's the authority Yahweh has given over them. Remember, as he said to the disciples that asked him, why couldn't we cast out the demon? And then Yahweh says, because of your unbelief. Certain ones, you got to be in a state of prayer and fasting, or having done that at least, to be able to, well, I guess you could also say exorcise the demon, which is pretty much just cast it out. So again, the fundamental is belief, because he did say it's because of your lack of belief, your unbelief, or the low level of belief. So that's the point. Yaratazar. Let me play a bit more.
In here! It's a spirit in here! Nobody's in here!
Really, in that time as well, when we're doing the clear up, around the world, Yaratazar after the crowning ceremony and whatnot, or even, because remember, there's going to be various feats of spiritual power that will be recorded in Acts 2.0, which we're going through right now. For those of you who understand, you understand. Because remember, there's the first book of Acts, but in the kingdom, there'll be more books written considering what we've just lived through. So there's going to be various feats of spiritual power that Akim are going to go through. And of course, another one would be, okay, you just tell the fucking demons, go kill the Hamites. So the same idols they were worshipping, because considering on our knowing that Yahweh has given us authority, you just tell them, all right, go kill the Hamites, and then it's going to be a wrap for them. They're going to be running. The Hamites are going to be running from their demons that they worship. And of course, from then on, anyone who tries to worship their idols in our kingdom will receive punishment. And that's it. So, that's just me making a suggestion of what could happen. Brother flipping teleporting and saying, all right, time to clear up some Hamites. And he sent the same flipping Zangbeto spirits to go, cut them off, man. Send their spirits back to the spirit realm. You should know what I mean. But yeah, let's see. We get some more precepts. Hold on. All right, this is Exodus 10 and verse Exodus 7 and 10. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and and they did so as the Lord Yahweh had commanded them. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and became a serpent. So the staff that he was holding, was he threw it to the ground, of course, that staff, that rod, then turned into a serpent. Now it says here in verse 11, then Pharaoh also called the wise men and sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They also, so again, these are Hamite magicians, the same one that we saw over here. Hold on. Especially these guys in the white, they're probably like the high priests of the flipping demons. That's why, they were drinking, the flipping spitting, which is part of the ceremony.
Nobody's in there, y'all.
It's almost as though he's like doing some taming act, or not even taming, but remember, demon means intelligent, man. So the spirit here is just acting right now, man. He's just doing the will of the Most High, to keep these Hamites in their delusion, and as well as Jake as well as Jake, so Jake in their ignorance. So anyways, that's similar to back in the day over here. Now watch this. It says Exodus 7 and 11. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They also did in like manner with their enchantments. You see, all of that spitting of the water, whatever, whatever liquid that they're spitting on the materials to try and trigger the spirits or something. Those are known as enchantments. Now it says, verse 12, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. You see, the magicians, the sorcerers, they cast it down, so they became serpents as well. Their sticks, their staffs. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, which is a spiritual indicator, spiritual sign right there. He says, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord Yahweh had said. You see, so it says, right, verse 12, it says, but Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. A good illustration was the Prince of Egypt. Of course, it's a children movie, so they couldn't have made it too, I guess, scary or vivid looking, compared to how this demonic priest, this Hamite priest, is doing here as well. But anyways, in the Prince of Egypt, the animated movie, they showed Aaron's staff, or Moses' staff, as a white serpent, and then Janus and Jambres, which were the magicians, by the way, their staffs were black snakes. So and the white snake or white serpent swallowed up the two black serpents. So that was a representation of that. So that also reflects to us right now that the right hand side has power over the left hand side. We just read it in I think Luke 10 and verse 19 to 20. So that supports right hand side overpowers left hand side. And as I said, man, easily, man of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, will say, just command these spirits, all right, go kill those these Hamite priests, man. Then we're gonna see true terror. My gosh. Anyways, so yeah, man, that's just the point right there. Man, in terms of Janus and Jambres, these were the guys, the magicians that was said to oppose Moses. Now it says 2 Timothy 3 and 8. Now as Janus and Jambres with or Jambres, I'm gonna just say Jambres. Now as Janus and Jambres withstood Moses, so do they also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. So the key part is that their names were Janus and Jambres. That's why I was getting this precept. So they're the ones. They were the magicians mentioned in Exodus 7 and verse 11. A few were trying to show that they had power on the left hand side, but their power is nothing compared to the power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Remember, of each of their acts, in order to try and prove to Moses that they got power on the left hand side, which is weak anyways. The power that Yahweh showed through Moses was beyond a large magnitude greater than what was shown by these by Janus and Jambres, man. But yeah, that's really the point out, Kim. Let's see. But yeah, let me finish this off then.
In there, y'all. It's going. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I want to see him open it though. What? Hold on, wait. Can you guys open it? Can you open it? I want to see if somebody's actually in there or not.
What is it?
I said, can they open it? I want to see if somebody's actually in there or not.
Ah, il faut voir s'il y a quelqu'un dedans.
He said no because
He does it sometimes, but I don't like it. I think when you ask them to do it, but he will definitely do it, and you can see again.
Yeah.
But if you ask them, if I don't want to do it because you ask them.
That's how you know the spirits that they're dealing with, man. You know, demons that they're dealing with. You can't just flip and tell the demon do this unless you actually have authority over them. You see, that's the catch when it comes to these Hamite priests, these left-hand side Hamite priests, man. Which is the name that I'm calling them, considering their attire and what they're doing. Left-hand side demonic Hamite priests. Because they're limited, man. You know, they gotta do all of this, all of that, just to make the demon enter the material and, you know, perform an act right there. Which these things come at a cost as well, man. Yaratazar, you know, I'm gonna do it all in one video, you know. Do it all in one video, just hold on. Just to get some information here. Yaratazar, I'll do this, then you know, I'm gonna just wrap it up. This is just some information on that, you know, Zangbeto spirit, which is a demon.
Imagine a towering, colorful haystack spinning in the dead of night, moving on its own, changing direction, even chasing people. But here's the part that has baffled outsiders for decades. When it's open, there's no one inside. Nothing. Just air. This isn't fiction. This is real. And the phenomenon is known as Zangbeto, a centuries-old West African mystery that continues to defy logic, physics, and even modern science. Welcome to Kwehu.
And you know, them people saying that is a robot, you know, as Speed was saying. It's like these men are in the village, man. You know, I mean, of course, yeah, you could get complicated, but no, the facts are they're spirits, they're demons. You know, believe it or not. That's the point. That's on you. If you don't believe it, you don't believe it. But I'm telling you the facts. These are spirits, man. These are demons. You know, for those who have eyes to see.
Media, where we go beyond headlines to bring you real African stories, cultures, and mysteries that the world barely knows about. I'm Zamora, and in this video, we're diving deep into one of the continent's most fascinating living legends, Zangbeto, the so-called night guardians. You'll learn what they are, how they operate, why even scientists can't explain them, and what happens to those who dare to unmask them. Zangbeto originates from the coastal regions of Benin and Togo, among the Ogu and other GBE-speaking peoples. These towering haystack-like figures aren't just for show. Traditionally, they were the local enforcers patrolling villages, protecting people, and scaring off thieves and evil spirits. To locals, they are vessels of ancestral power, inhabited by spirits that come alive during festivals. But for outsiders, the real shock comes when these things are seen spinning uncontrollably, sometimes levitating, and then when finally opened, revealing nothing inside. Witness accounts are consistent and chilling. Community elders, international journalists, even skeptical tourists have all confirmed seeing the Zangbeto perform feats that defy physical explanation. How do they move? How do they speak in deep echoing tones? And most importantly, how can they be empty? Some say it's spiritual possession. Others believe it's a sacred illusion, a hidden tradition protected by generations of secrecy. Scientists who visited these communities offer a range of theories: hidden compartments, master-level contortionists, or clever use of counterweights. But none can fully explain how Zangbeto sometimes appear to move without touching the ground or why unmasking one is said to result in sudden sickness or death. There's even a belief that simply trying to explain Zangbeto with Western logic is an act of disrespect because these are not performances. They are sacred.
Which nevertheless, they're all idols. They're all idols. They're all gonna get tarnished. They're all gonna get destroyed. And none of this flipping deserves any respect because it goes against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Hence why their idols in that time, I believe it through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Arkim are going to command these demons to then attack these Hamites, man. You know, their flipping idols are going to go against them. The same demons they were worshipping is going to go against them through the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Man's talking about disrespect. They deserve all the fucking disrespect in the world, man, because they're going against the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahshua, especially Jake, who's worshipping alongside these Hamites. Now, what did the guy mention? Hold on.
Hidden tradition protected by generations of secrecy. Scientists who visited these communities offer a range of theories, hidden compartments, master-level contortionists, or clever use of counterweights. But none can fully explain how Zangbeto sometimes appear to move without touching the ground or why unmasking one is said to result in sudden sickness or death.
You see? It says, why unmasking one is said to result in sudden sickness or death. Did I not say that these things come at a cost? You know, so of course, Hamites are limited in terms of their so-called authority or mastery of the spirits, mastery of the demons. You know, anyways, enough said about this, man. Yaratazar, you know, look at this one, man. Another bug out. But anyways, let me end off with a precept. Hold on. All right, so let's do this. This is Isaiah 19 and verse 3. Isaiah 19 and 3. The spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy. Of course, this is also reference to America. You know, it says, I shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to idols. You see, just like these Hamites, which the Hamites were the ancient Egyptians, so you can see the link there. And they shall seek to idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to wizards. You know, so of course, again, the key phrase it says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. Let me read the NLT. And the Egyptians will lose heart, and I will confuse their plans, and will plead with their idols for wisdom, and call on spirits, mediums, and those who consult the spirits of the dead. But a key phrase again, the Egyptians will lose hearts. You know, not just the Americans, but also these other heathens who have so much trust and conviction in their idols, they'll realize, no, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai rules all. He rules over all spirits. Remember, he's called the father of spirits. You know, you don't play around with, you know, Yahweh, man. He's the father of all spirits. He created all spirits. Now, this is Hebrews 12 and 9. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? You know, so again, man, keep the faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Our power is over all other powers. These are just little demons, really, if you want to consider them in terms of rank. You know, we have our authority over them through the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Anyway, so Shalom, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Brakatha, Yaharatazah, you found it edifying, help to open your eyes up. You know, spiritual power, spiritual battles, man. You know, maintain your faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. So yeah, Shalom, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Brakatha.